Hey, welcome back to the Breaking Bad Insider Podcast. My name is Kelly Dixon. We're here to talk about episode 306, which is called Sunset. I'm here as usual with my executive producer, Vince Gilligan.
Greetings.
The writer and director of this episode, John Scheiben.
Hello.
Our music supervisor, Thomas Gulubich.
Hello.
And our composer, Dave Porter.
Hello.
The first thing I was going to bring up is, John, I know you're a big fan of horror and slasher movies.
Yeah.
And so, big smile from you. And so we're opening up this episode a little bit different, a lot different actually, than we usually open up.
This is probably the first time in my career where I've written a location and then found exactly what I was thinking of. I think it was Michelle McLaren, who was here filming, came up with the notion of a flagpole, and a flagpole without a flag that makes our haunting noise. I'm so happy with it, and it's so to be able to play all those little horror movie tropes, which we did, the POVs, the tracking shots, the discoveries, the finding the dead body, somebody behind you, all those things.
Talk about the flies too. How'd you get all those flies?
Well,
The body there.
Yeah, the part of the and everybody has seen it, I assume, when they tune into this podcast.
Yeah.
So finding the dead body, we did want to play with sound and then play with the visuals, and so the sound of the flies had to be mixed just right to draw this man's attention, the cop's attention, to draw him back there. But when he got there, we had no flies on the set at all. All the flies you see are CGI. And pretty amazing, actually, I think. The top of Act 1 actually didn't begin with Walt, but it started with a scene where Hank catches up with his ASAC. But it was a nice scene. It was Hank catching up with him and wanting him to sign a warrant.
To get a wiretap,
To get a wiretap on Jesse Pinkman. Once it was shot and cut together and put in the show, and we were facing some time constraints, the decision was made to take it out. And honestly, the first time we see Hank, he's in the car, he's got a pile of junk food in the seat next to him, and we get it. And he's frazzled, and he tells his wife, "I ain't giving up on this one." We get it. What's amazing about this whole process to me is that I do think we needed it. I think we needed it not necessarily for the final product, but I think it helped the actors know where they were. It helped the reader. It helped the studio, the network. It helped the cast and crew to know what the story was. And then when you get to the editing room, you're remaking the whole thing.
Talk about those instruments you use specific to the Cousins. They use a certain instruments.
Yeah, we
musical
was fortunate to have a friend who is born and raised in Mexico and is a percussion player, and he has an amazing collection of drums and percussion instruments, and particularly these whistles. You hear them every time the Cousins come around. I find a way to fit them in, but there's these whistles that the Aztecs used. They're called war whistles, and they're basically just incredibly shrill and eerie, and they were designed for the battlefield to scare the pants off anybody else. And we use music often in a way to emphasize what will happen or what may happen, and then when it actually happens, we let natural sound and the realism of the moment make the play for us.
Which is that's a good thing to talk about, because that's very different than most TV shows. It's time honored in movies and television that the music tells you how to feel emotionally, reinforces an emotion that is very often kind of apparent. It's like printing too much money. You print too much money,
it deflates the value.
Exactly.
I think we get brought in a lot. I think to Dave and I to fix problems. I think that part of the job of a music supervisor or a composer is to look at something objectively and be able to say, this needs a little bit of help. How can we help it? And one of the things that was really clear to me from the pilot was that we really could have had no music in that entire pilot, and it would have been incredibly powerful. It was very easy, I think, for us to just pull everything back into the bare essentials and make sure that the story was really what was being led, and the music was simply supporting in the right moments and nudging things along.
I wanted to talk to you guys about the other old friend that we're losing.
The RV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, the good news is that that is not our actual RV that gets crushed.
Are you serious?
Oh, you didn't know that?
No, are you serious?
No. We're saving that one for the Smithsonian.
Are you kidding me? Right on, so let's go break bad.